All right, so I'm going to take this opportunity to highlight another character that I enjoy reading about, and that is Kamala Khan, the new Miss Marvel. I began reading her book, and I can't even remember. It was not long after she debuted, and I have to admit I was a little bit jealous. Uh, I was jealous of this character. It's kind of hard to explain, but. Uh, Let me put it this way: I'm a Christian, right? And I've always felt like I've always wanted to put my Christian ideas out there, and I do have um, a character of color myself, and I always had the impression, well, if I had put out this character of mine, which I do plan to do eventually, and I may use this channel to start promoting her. But if I thought if I put my ideas out there, my Christian ideas out there, or my character out there as a Christian, she most certainly would not get any form of success. She would most likely be rejected by most people. And so when Miss Marvel Kamala Khan came out and she was celebrated for being a Muslim, I was like, um, wow. I felt a certain type of way about that. I was jealous. And But as jealous as I was, it turned really what it turned into was motivation, and I felt even more motivated to try to get my character out there, my Christian character out there. But um, after a while, I decided, you know what, things progressively got worse with the whole culture, with the way comic books are now, and I can almost guarantee for absolute sure my character would be rejected by most people reading comics right now, or at least the minority who have pretty much taken over comics, and those are the what we typically call the SJWs. But I also ended up not only getting motivation from Kamala Khan, but I also got curious and I decided to check her book out. So reading from I started I came on a little late, but I started at number one, and I I thought the character was really cute. For lack of a better word, she's an extremely cute character with a great personality. She's of course a teenage girl, and so what she's a geek, also a nerd, for also for lack of a better word. She enjoys video games, online games. She enjoys talking about superheroes, learning about superheroes. She's a superhero geek, and in a way, she is kind of a um, almost like I would say a fantasy character where a person who is similar to her may see Kamala as their representative, someone like a teenage girl or even a boy who's reading comics who also enjoys the same things instantly identify with Kamala Khan because of the things that she enjoys. They feel like, wow, she's just like me. So I see that part. I see that part of her appeal. And also, what I liked about Kamala's book was that we got to see okay, her family felt real. Her family felt fleshed out. Her life felt more, I would say, genuine. Her experience in high school, she does spend a lot of time in high school. Like you could call her a modern day Spider-Man, or modern day Peter Parker, uh, because she does have a very almost authentic feeling um, life as a teenager. And when it comes to her powers, though, her powers are really nothing. I would say they're nothing really very original at all. She's basically Elastigirl, or you can. at first when she first started out, she was pretty much her potential to shapeshift. That is basically her power, shapeshifting. Um, her potential to shapeshift was not just limited to stretching or to growing parts of her body. She was actually able to take different um, appearances, like Mystique does. So really, she had at the beginning one of the most varied power sets there is, and that made her a very, if you ask me, somewhat overpowered character. But as time sort of went on, her abilities sort of became more defined, and she pretty much stuck to stretching and deforming herself, like in a like what you see was with Elastigirl from Doom Patrol, or even the Elastigirl from The Incredibles. And so, what she also does though is she does have the ability to shrink and to grow, which that part put me off. I can't even lie because um, I'm also a fan of the character stature, and and I felt like Kamala was stepping on Stature's toes a little bit, and yeah, I honestly have to. I guess I'll make a video on Stature now, um, because that goes into what what I also perceive as a problem these days, and not just in comics, but in um, the culture as a whole, where now it's okay to discriminate against people who are not um, people of color, where it's okay to discriminate against white people now. I'm not racist at all, and I understand that most, at least in my opinion, white people do have more privilege than people of color do. They start off oftentimes in better positions than people who are in ghettos and people who have, and not just that, but I've been outside of the U.S. And if you haven't been outside of the U.S. to countries like just Japan, you wouldn't know that there's a definite preference outside of the U.S. for people of lighter skin over people of darker skin, and it's a very it's a very surprising thing, and somewhat disappointing to come across and to come to that realization that you are actually not as preferred as someone else of a lighter skin. But moving on, she somewhat seems to be supplanting Stature now, taking Stature's place, and that put me off a little bit to her character. But other than that, I mean, just I'm not going to let that take away from Kamala Khan's character at all. She's still a great character, and I would have kept continued to read her book, but what Marvel did was they had an event called Secret Wars a few years ago, and her book got put on hold, and they had to do this um, company wide event, and it took away from the story so much that I just never picked the book back up after the event ended. But Kamala Khan is a character who many dismiss as a SJW character or whatever like that. But while there are some things in her story about um, relating to her skin color, relating to her religion, and things like that, that's to be expected. You have to, at least a little bit is okay. There's a line though. At least I know there's a line. So here's I guess where you would, let me give an example. When, and I think it's actually a good thing about, this is actually something good about Kamala's character. She grew up idolizing the original Miss Marvel, Carol Danvers. Now, Carol Danvers is white hair, not white hair, white. She's Caucasian, blonde hair, blue eyes. Now, that is the ideal, I guess you would say, the ideal image of beauty, really. And so Kamala, when she first transformed, when she first discovered her powers, the first form that she took was the image of her idol. And she came out of her cocoon, basically, when she transformed, when she had her metamorphosis, she came out as blonde haired, blue eyed, in her hero's um, Miss Marvel outfit, the outfit that Carol Danvers used to wear, and that says something about the way that Kamala Khan saw herself and the way that other children or other people of color think of beauty. When they think of beauty, when they think of a not just beauty but of a hero, they often picture in their head a Caucasian person, blonde hair, blue eyes. Ask them to draw a superhero, most likely it's going to be a white person. Now, there's a way that you deal with that. There's a way that you handle that in the story. And I think the way Kamala Khan's story dealt with it was subtle. It was appropriate. It wasn't beat you over the head, but it said a lot. So Kamala had to confront her own bias against her. She had to confront her bias against her own appearance, against her own skin color, in the way she naturally appeared, and accept that she was just as beautiful as her idol, Carol Danvers, and she chose not to take on a more beautiful form, though she had the ability to. She's a shapeshifter. She can make herself to appear more beautiful, but she had to become comfortable with her own self, the way she was, enough to stick with who she was and not lose herself, and or not abuse her power to make herself look better than she actually does naturally. So she transformed back into her usual self, and that's part of the reason why she insists on not transforming into to take other people's appearances now. So what else? Another thing I thought about pointing out here is there is a wide variation in the way people um, color her skin. Kamala's skin is more close to the picture here in the middle, the more darker brown. But what people will sometimes do is they will lighten her skin where she becomes almost white. She looks just like a white person, like this picture here on the left. Now, I don't think that person means any harm by it, but they are actually that's what you would call colorism. But I don't see anything wrong with pointing that out. Okay, so I'm not an SJW or whatever. There is no shame or no harm in pointing that out. Where we cross the line is that not we, but where social justice warriors cross the line is that they will attack this person, call her racist, call her whatever else, assuming that's a girl who looks like a female's artwork, and they will jump on her and ruin her life because she didn't um, because she made Kamala Khan too light. That shouldn't happen. We shouldn't do that. So Kamala Khan is a brown skinned girl, and she deals with issues sometimes. Like she said in her comic one time, um, oh, I wish I could remember the exact words she said, but she mentions life growing up as a brown skinned girl. Now the interesting thing is that the author is not brown skinned at all. She's white, but her from my experience, her writing of Kamala Khan has been very I would say um, it didn't feel like a white person writing a brown skinned person's life. It felt very authentic, and so I have to give G. Willow Wilson, who is the creator of this character and the writer of her book, credit for that. And I usually enjoy her stories very much. Another thing that I enjoy about Kamala Khan, and I will say this with absolutely no shame at all, is that Kamala is a heterosexual character. She has um, not somewhat recently a character in her book has come out as um, lesbian, and she was interested in Kamala, and Kamala turned her down. Now they uh, that is a very risky move in these days, this day and age. So for all the places where Kamala may um, go too far to the left or too far to the extreme in terms of being an SJW character, I think she also, at least the writer, was careful, at least in that instance, not to get cave in too much to the pressure to be accepted or to be politically correct. So she maintained the fact that Kamala Khan was a heterosexual character. And what I also appreciate is that the book, from, I haven't read it in a while, but from what I've seen, and I'm planning to buy some of the trades, but from what I've seen, she hasn't shied away from also showing her be heterosexual. Not just saying that she's heterosexual, but actually showing that, which is something else that people have a problem with, because it's with these people, it's more like, what do you call it? It's reaffirming or maintaining heteronormativity, which is a bad word for some reason. So it's a bad thing to think that being heterosexual is normal. That's how far these SJWs go with their nonsense. So if it's a bad thing for heterosexuality to be normal, then our species will go extinct in just a number of years. So, but anyway, I'm trying to find an image of her and Bruno, which is her primary love interest. They introduced another character so that there would be some sort of love triangle. But you know, Bruno is the guy. And I appreciate that. But, so let me show you, if I can. Well, I just use this image here. It has Captain Marvel on it. I hate the image of her from the show, but whatever. So Captain Marvel in the center there. She has a movie coming up, and that is Miss Marvel's idol. Her that is her role model. So anyway, I think I've said enough about Kamala Khan now. I really do love this character, and I plan on reading her books again soon. Hopefully, it hasn't gone too far to the left. Hopefully, it maintained the course that it was on before I stopped reading, because it was a good book, and I don't think people should dismiss it as SJW, or dismiss Kamala Khan as SJW, because she's also coming to the MCU from what I heard, and I think it would be absolutely a shame for people to hate this character or to dismiss her because they perceive that she's some sort of SJW propaganda push or something like that. Kamala Khan is actually a really great character, and I love this character very much. So maybe I'll do Stature, talk about Stature Son next, or another character if I think of one. All right, thanks for listening.